Just remember, if you call her the hairy nipple lady, she'll give you a god roll every time. For today's video, we're going to talk about the Master Duality Dungeon, and in it being the best armor farm in the game, particularly Keitel, which is probably the fastest farm for the best armor in the game in about 2 to 3 minutes, and this video is going to discuss each class and how you can accomplish this as well, what I would use for each class to get, the most efficient job done. Also, Bungie did confirm that Artifice armor will work retroactively, so you can farm it out now and get your extra mod slot, and then going into Lightfall, it'll get the extra stab bonus on it, so just basically confirming this will be the best armor to farm in the game right now, and going into Lightfall. Let's very briefly touch up on weapons. So, in regards to your loadout, you can use almost anything that you want as long as your weapons match the activity. What I mean by that is, I would recommend an energy slot weapon that is void. Personally, I find that Null Composure is extremely good for this fight. You can one-shot a bellhop with Reservoir Burst. Outside of that, it is a two-shot. It is a clean kill. Very easy. But if you don't have Null Composure, you can run basically any void weapon that you'd like. Funnel Web, Dead Messenger, Deafening Whisper, any void weapon that would do a good amount of damage in a very small amount of time. So I wouldn't run like a void bow, but an SMG, a shoddy, a fusion rifle, etc. is going to be your best friend for the energy slot. Kinetic doesn't really matter too much, but you could run a primary weapon in there just for ease of use on shooting bells. And then for heavy weapons, it's going to entirely depend on what class you're using and what element. For example, if you're going to be using the Arc Strider build with the Gathering Storm, which I'm going to talk about in a second here, you would run an arc weapon such as Storm Chaser because you can abuse Font of Might through the power of Melee Wallmaker. Again, I'll get into that in a second. If you're using Void, then you can use something like Taipan. And if you're using something like Solar, then obviously you have Xenophage, Lament, and of course the #1 MVP in Cataclysmic. All in all, the dominant theme there is of course linear fusions, but if you don't have an overpowered linear fusion, then going down a notch to something like Lament because it does good damage, but also heals you during the damage phase from, the Scions and Keitel shooting you all at once. Now you're going to be watching me use Arc Strider on screen, and that is my recommendation with Gathering Storm for this. However, I will mention you can totally run Night Stalker for tether purposes and more invis if you'd like to be more safe. That's totally fine, and obviously tether does a higher debuff than Withering Clear. By the way, don't use Diff for this fight. Keitel is one of those bosses where Diff actually negatively affects you. Just thought I'd throw that in there. For Arc Strider, so here we go. The plan is simple. Have Combination Blow and Lethal Current as your main source of strength. This will allow you to basically melee one-shot every single thing in the throne room, including the Void Bellhops, and every time you melee kill and then dodge and melee kill again, Lethal Current will also proc with Jolt, killing everything else around you as well that you didn't melee. And while this is happening, you're going to be using the exotic Assassin's Cowl, which you, by the way, can use on Void or Arc for this. Assassin's Cowl says, powered melee Final Blows grants you invis, so you instantly go invis when you get a melee kill. It also restores a portion of your health and shields. Finishers also work for this, by the way, for going invis, and then Final Blows on more powerful combatants, so like let's say the Bellhops, you're going to get a higher duration of invis, and you get more health and shields back as well. So essentially, once you get one melee kill rolling on any Scion in the room, you're just going to be getting more damage up to X3, and basically be unstoppable from there, because every kill you get, you go invis, dodge, go to your next victim, melee them, they die, dodge, and so on, until everything else is dead and you're prepared to shoot the bells or start DPS for Keitel. Also, in case you're curious, my fragments were Resistance, Shock, Feedback, and Ions. As far as mods go, you want to have two main things, Font of Might and or High Energy Fire. Technically, you can run both. I'll explain. So for any of these builds, you're going to be focusing on either melee or grenades. So for example, Warlocks, grenades, and the other two can be melee builds. Melee Wallmaker makes a well on the ground every time you get a melee kill. Very easy for two of the classes. Elemental Ordnance can be done by all three classes, but very easy on Warlock. Both of these will make a well on the ground when you get a kill, and then you have Font of Might to proc off of that to get a damage boost to your elemental weapon. So for example, if you're Arc, Storm Chaser, if you're Solar, Cataclysmic. And then finally, High Energy Fire can be procced by using Elemental Charge, which basically says when you pick up a well on the ground, you get charged with light. And when you're charged with light, you have High Energy Fire ready to go. Now, you might be thinking, why do I want High Energy Fire when we have well? Basically, Keitel has 3 bells. Your well can only go on 1 bell, unless you're running 3 Warlocks, in which case ignore this. But if you're not running 3 Warlocks, then when you go to the next bells, you can have High Energy Fire ready to shoot at Keitel, essentially having the damage of sitting in a well of Radiance just on a different bell without one. Oh, one last thing, because Hunter means you're going to take my hand off if I don't mention it. You can run 1-2 punch as well on top of your combination blow to increase your melee damage even further, but it's not mandatory for this at all if you don't have one. But if you do have a Wastelander that you have crafted, you can put 1-2 punch on it. There you go, moving on. Okay, Titans, let's talk about you. I'm actually going to go the path of Solar instead of Arc. I know some people will say Heart of Inmost, Storm Nades, yada yada, Broken, Thunder Crash, and that's great. I'm not going to say it's a bad build for this. You can totally run that. However, I'm going to recommend Sunbreaker just for efficiency and being literally unkillable. This build is extremely simple. All you need to do is have your hammer and then have the exotic Syntheseps. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, wait, Syntheseps, don't you mean Loreleys? And actually, no. Loreleys is fine. If you like rocking that to survive, that's cool. However, I recommend Syntheseps for a couple of reasons. First off, Synthos gives you 3x damage for your hammer, making your hammer insane and one-shotting everything in the room. 2, you can run Well of Life on top of your usual Sunbreaker build, and every time you get a kill, you're going to heal and out-heal any incoming damage to you, so you're just a walking nuke that's healing non-stop, and as long as you keep getting your hammer kills non-stop on each enemy, you will never die. In case you're wondering what my build is overall, like aspects and fragments, here you go. Roaring Flames, Soul Invictus, then we have Fragments, Solace, Torches, Ashes, and Searing. I have the whole build for this, by the way, on the channel in case you want to check that out. But this build is very simple. Synthos on, throw hammer, keep throwing hammer, kill everything in sight, never die. You're going to be seeing this on screen in full effect, and essentially you just clear out everything until you get to the Kaido DPS with this, and then you rock whatever build you want with your weapons. For example, Cataclysmic in your heavy because you're solar. For mods, it's similar to Hunter. You can run Melee Wellmaker, which gives you a free well every single time you get a melee kill, which will be a F-ton, because that's going to be all your kills. Then you run Phantomite to get an increased damage buff on your solar weapons, again like Cataclysmic. And then you can run the combo of Elemental Charge and High Energy Fire, just like previously, to get that extra damage off when you don't have a well on a bell for Kaido. Obviously, if you're on Titan, you don't have 3 wells, so that will come up at some point. Then for the last slot, like I previously mentioned, Well of Life, in case I didn't already put it up on screen, here you go. Picking up a Solar Elemental Well grants increased regeneration for a short period of time. Again, you're just going to be an unkillable machine walking around, healing forever. It's like your Wolverine. Finally, we have Warlocks. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good Controverse build for a Nova Bomb Warlock. They're fun to run. However, in terms of consistency and efficiency for most people, not recommending Well of Radiance is a pretty silly idea. So with that being said, obviously go Well of Radiance. If you care for aspects and stuff, here's Icarus Dash and Touch of Flame. And for fragments, we have Eruption, Searing, Torches, and Ashes. And this all ties into running Starfire Protocol. Now, I will say, if you want to run Lunafaction Boots for faster reload or Rain of Fire for instant reload, that's cool too. However, Starfire Protocol, fusion grenades are just absolutely, well, they're nutty, right? You fire with a horde, throw a grenade, fire another weapon, throw a grenade, and so on. You get a ton of grenades, and that equals out to a ton of damage. So for Warlocks, what gun you use really doesn't matter that much. Like, I would say if you have a Cataclysmic, of course, run that. But if you don't, like just a Wither Horde, like an SMG and some sort of power weapon that has good damage is totally fine. You can run a rocket as well for full demo abuse, so you go rocket nade, rocket nade. Either way, Warlocks are just nutty at keeping everyone alive and outputting a ton of damage, so I would highly recommend you abuse Starfire with Well of Radiance for this. Quick final edit I wanted to throw in there. 2 small tips. One, if you want to be more survivability oriented on your Warlock, you can rock healing nades to protect yourself or your teammates, you know, sniper shots, backpacks, what have you, and then rock a standard Cataclysmic, Wither Horde build, etc. Then, for all the classes this applies to, run Solar Resist and Sniper Resist. They're both flat buffs to taking damage from each, Snipers and Solar. And then if you're rocking a Artifice chest piece instead of a Starfire chest piece, then you could put an extra Energy Diffusion slot in there as well, just for a little extra, you know, damage resist on top of that. That's all I got for you guys today. If you're watching this in real time, you have from February 7th to the 14th to get this farm done before Lightfall. So hopefully this helps you. Hopefully you enjoy. Like, share, subscribe. It does help the channel. Much appreciated. Also, stream daily on Twitch. Link in the description below for that. Other than that, catch you guys in the next one.